The Pseudo Nerd Podcast.
Or a board game revolution, as I like to call it.
I've never heard you call it that, but
You've said it. You've now said it, I think 4 times, and it is the title of the rundown.
Teetering between dude and dork.
From a physics or realistic standpoint, it makes more sense than this Death Star that can just, do that.
These friends discuss everything from sports
I hope you don't win a playoff game with your kicker scoring the most points.
to movies.
The whole idea of Hermione and Harry Potter, it's just like having the jock getting with the cheerleader to me.
To cheeseburgers.
Baconzilla is just an extra thing I'll have.
It's an added bonus, a little
The
treat.
2 Baconzillas I get are the extra added treat.
This is the Pseudo Nerd Podcast with Josh Kiser.
You come in there, scissor kick some people, do a spinneroonie, get tossed out.
Josh Haddon.
If you've never read the graphic novel and watched that, you walk away from it thinking about Batman and Batgirl instead of Batman and Joker.
And Kyle Hogan.
He's just bathing in his blood.
Get ready. The Pseudo Nerd Podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 65 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for July 28th, 2017. I am your podcast host, Josh Kiser, and I am joined once again by just Kyle Hoagland.
What, do you think just because Haddock showed up one day, he thought he was coming back? Sorry, people. Just me, once again. What's going on, everybody?
We had one short with Josh, and just like that, he's back on daddy duty.
You know what? It's he could take his time. No one misses him. Everyone, we all know. His voice can literally make babies. But one thing I will say about the last short, he's got a smooth jazz type of voice sometimes, and it's not always vibrant and energetic. So this time around we got an hour and a half going. Let's keep the audience going. Let's keep them alive. Let's keep the blood flowing. Which is something that I don't know. Not even judging Haddix, because Haddix has got a thing. But I think you and I bring the energy. I think this is the more high octane duo.
Well, and we're going to need a high octane type podcast today, as we're going to be breaking down Comic-Con. If there's anything more high octane than the biggest comic convention of the year, where all the big players come in. We're gonna if you missed it, fear not, we're gonna be here to kind of break down all the big trailers that were revealed from television to movies and comics and kind of everything in between. So you won't need any jazz voice for this. You're gonna need the high octane.
Absolutely. This is going to be exciting. This has always been something I've always wanted to go to. I know that if I was still living in California, this would have been something I would have gotten a ticket to and gone down to San Diego to go see. But alas, I'm back in the Great Lakes. So kind of a missed opportunity. But I think in the very, very near future, I will be either going to San Diego Comic-Con or E3 in the very near future. If I had to pick between one or the other, and we'll talk more about that later on down the show, E3 will make a return to our discussion later. But honestly, this might actually be the one I'd be more excited to go see than E3.
I went to the New York Comic-Con, which next to San Diego is the next biggest. It's a good time. I don't think it's something you can do every year. I think it's more glamorous in some things, but if you want to see a panel, you want to see one of the popular panels, you almost have to wait in line and sit through a lot of BS, or you lose your spot. For instance, I wanted to see Walking Dead, which was the premier panel in the main hall, and it had this was when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was brand new, so you're looking at probably almost 5 years ago now, because I think they're coming up on their 5th season. Those were the 2 headliners back to back, and I had to sit through the CW show Reign. I had to sit through, there was 2 or 3 other shows, and I had to sit through panels for them.
Rain was clearly worth it.
Well, Rain was one of those kind of a sidebar. So basically what they did is they would show you either a clip, or in some cases, like with Rain, you watch the whole episode. So you're in there for a long time. I mean, my entire day was pretty much sat in this panel all day in order to see Walking Dead, see the cast, and all that kind of stuff. And, Walking Dead, all they did was show a 5-minute sneak peek trailer, which is pretty much what we're going to be breaking down today. But Rain came on.
So it's a long amount of waiting for a small amount of content. Pretty much.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The panels are pretty entertaining. You see a lot of the actors, so there's some good that comes out of that. And if you get lucky enough to get your questions answered, they're always fun. But you saw Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You were there for Walking Dead. I wish I could remember what else they showed. Oh, Superman. It was like the 50th anniversary of Superman, whatever it is, 100th anniversary. They had some big thing for that, so you saw that. A lot of comic and related content, and then the CW show Rain. So you watch that. Mind you, this is not by any means the group that you want to have sitting there. Oh, they had Beauty and the Beast, the one with Kristen Crook from Smallville. So at least some people were interested because she played Lana in Smallville, so they were interested in her for that. But Rain came on, and you watch the whole episode. After it's over, the lights turn back on, and it's like dead quiet, and some guy goes, "That was the worst piece of shit I've ever seen." And it just, everybody starts laughing, and the people come out, and they're getting booed at the panel. I mean, it was not well thought out.
Dan, they didn't give him a chance. I mean, that was probably not even the first season, right? Or whatever Rain was.
Oh, no, it was, you literally saw it probably a month or two before the premiere episode. I watched the series premiere before the series premiere aired by a couple months, or at least a month or something like that. Let's just say its reign was over long before it started.
I get it. I see it. Anyway, going back to Beauty and the Beast, I actually didn't hate that idea, that whole show. I don't know.
It lasted a little bit of time, so it must have done okay. I personally did not watch it, but it wasn't the worst idea the CW's come out with. That's for sure. And speaking of the CW, that will be part of what we're going to be breaking down today. A lot of the CW shows did some trailers as well. So without further ado, let's just get into everything there was to talk about from the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con. Okay, now we have a lot of network television shows, we've got some movies, but before we get into those, Netflix really, they kind of may have won Comic-Con in some ways with just one trailer alone, but we got a couple of things we're going to break down here. And I guess before we get into Netflix exclusives, I do want to mention one trailer that it's probably a big deal to some people. That's the Westworld Season 2 trailer. It was a hit HBO show. I personally have not seen Westworld Season 1 yet. I've heard it's great. I just haven't got around to it. It's on my to-watch list. Anything you can add to that, Kyle? Have you seen the first season or anything? Or should we just mention that it was shown and move on from there?
Well, I mean, it's got two things that I think a lot of people like, Cowboys and Robots. And I've seen maybe 2 or 3 episodes. For what I watched, and it was not in any particular order. It was just something that was on HBO. I was bored and I watched it. Definitely seems like something that you want to pay attention to. As far as keeping up with the chronological order.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's one of those shows you need to watch from beginning to end, because I think there's a lot of there's a lot of suspense, and it's just it kind of, the story builds from one episode to the next. I feel
like Westworld is HBO's answer for when Game of Thrones is on break, and because I don't think both of them are on at the same time.
Well, no, no, and in Westworld was a huge hit, so it definitely it must have done some things right, and it is on my to-watch list. I just haven't checked it out yet. So I have not watched this trailer for that reason. I don't want it to maybe spoil something that I have not seen in the first season if I don't get around to watching it.
Sure. Now I'm kind of on the same thing. I didn't really want to watch anything about teasers or trailers for season 2 if it's already going to kind of spoil things with season 1, which I assume probably will. So P&Pers, if you guys are big Westworld fans, without spoiling anything, leave us a comment or leave us something on the old Twitterverse.
Yeah, tell us if we need to get on it right away and check it out or not. And maybe give us your thoughts as well on what you thought of the season 2 trailer.
I almost want to wait until all season 2 is done and then have like season 1, have like a season 1 and 2 just binge fest, like right before season 3 comes out. And that's kind of been my thing. I like to have more than one season to like bite into, and then season 3 will be kind of new. That was one thing that I really liked about Game of Thrones, was that I really didn't get into Game of Thrones until the end of season. What are we on now? 6 or 7? 7.
We're on
right?
7. Yep.
So I didn't start watching until
I think you got through the first 5, right? Yeah.
Yes. So season 6 was the first time I actually had to watch it like a normal person, and it really is a trip to watch all of seasons 1 through 5, and I'm pretty sure we did that in like 2 weekends. And so I kind of like that format. So I think I do want to build up some of Westworld's content, maybe 2 seasons. I think that's good enough. And then right before season 3 comes out, that's when I'll probably binge 1 and 2. And then once again, that's if the world and popular opinion thinks that show is worth watching, which so far it seems that's the case.
Yep, so far it does. And as far as the world is concerned, probably the most popular show that hit Netflix was kind of a surprise hit, I think, was Stranger Things. And they season 2 trailer came out, and this was just a fantastically done trailer all around, with the way they had the Thriller song in the background with who is that the voiceover that does the for the Thriller that discuss with
is it John Waters?
I didn't think it was him. I thought it was like Vincent whatever that horror guy was. But either way, it's the quote from Thriller, and the way it plays into the whole trailer, just fantastic. So, Kyle, before I go further into this, have you seen the first season of Stranger Things, or are you one of the few people that missed it?
Oh, I saw Stranger. By the way, Vincent Price, you're correct.
Okay, yep, that's the name, Vincent Price.
He also did some Alice Cooper. He was also in Alice Cooper's first album, a couple of things. Yes, I saw it. I will say this: I liked it. I'm not saying I don't see why it was such huge success. I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong.
Well,
I don't think it's the second coming of anything, but I did enjoy it. I definitely watched it. When
I think it was
we
a
got the chance to watch
great suspense kind of show. It was
I
only
think it was very well
8
written.
episodes.
It was very, very unique. I'll give it that.
It felt very 80s when you watched it. I mean, it felt like an 80s horror movie you were kind of watching. And I thought for having as many child actors as it had, they were very good child actors, and I thought it was well done all around. And basically the premise here of season 2 is poor Will, who finally, he gets saved at the end. He's like seeing visions or going back into the Upside Down. And it looks like there's some like Cthulhu looking beast in there, and he's got some problems on his hands. The other kids are trying to just live their normal 80s life, and Will's screwing it all up for him again.
Man, Will just can't get a break. He's kind of like I don't know. No one's going to get this I guess comparison, but I always think of him as he's the Doug of Stranger Things from like The Hangover, where like he's the guy that is hardly really in the show, but he's screwing everything up for the rest of them, and the rest of them have to figure it out for the rest of the time. Like the whole entire time is them either trying to rescue him or trying to stop whatever the heck's going on that's ultimately Will's fault or Doug's fault.
I did see, I don't know if you noticed or not, at Comic-Con, they had a panel, and Barb showed up. Of course, Barb being the internet sensation girl who disappeared when she was on the swimming pool and went into the Upside Down, and she's you never heard from her, and nobody seemed to give a shit that she was gone. So there was a Where's Barb campaign, and Barb showed up to help support that. So I thought that was pretty funny.
No, that is, I did know about that, and that was kind of a shame for Barb.
Yep, it sure was. And, I think overall, I think this second season looks like a good follow-up to the first. I don't know if there's anything else I want to add to it other than 11 is back. They show her, that's sort of the grand reveal at the end of the trailer, which is sort of a common theme, I think, through most of these trailers at Comic-Con. They sort of hold you off in the last 30 seconds. They drop some sort of big bomb. And this one is 11 is still alive, which I think everybody kind of knew. And it looks like she's returning to the normal, the right side up, or
the right
whatever,
side up.
Whatever you'd call it.
I think it's called the right side up.
So that's about all I've got on Stranger Things 2. I'm hyped for it. October 27th, that's coming out. Kyle, any other thing you want to add, or we can just move on?
I think we can move on, but I'm curious if it's the same town, right? So I mean, is everyone coming back? Is Winona Ryder also back?
Yeah,
they're
all
guy who
there.
plays the sheriff back.
They're all in the trailer, so you see them all there. Yeah, all the kids are back. Steve, I think was his name, the boyfriend, and the real anorexic sister, she's back. Winona Ryder and the sheriff. I mean, the cast is back. They don't talk much about the government agency. They don't seem to show them, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of role they play in this next season. But we'll see. Moving on, the next one here, another big anticipated show for Netflix. That's The Defenders. Of course, this is sort of like the Infinity Wars Avengers version for the Netflix series, and that's going to tie in Luke Cage, Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones getting all together. You don't see it a ton in the trailer. You kind of see them interact a little bit with each other. They don't seem to... It's sort of like they're not necessarily the best of friends, but they're working together because they have to. Of course, I've kind of hyped for this. I've caught up on everything. I've got about 2 episodes left of Iron Fist to be officially caught up on all the shows, but curious to see where it goes from here. I think it'll be a fun one to watch, and Sigourney Weaver, of course, one of the big stars they're bringing into this one, so I'll be curious to see where this show goes, and you'll know, guys, PMPers, because we will review this show at some point later this year, so keep that in mind. I think this show drops August 18th.
So my curiosity piqued when I heard about this. Because does that mean then that they're no longer continuing the 4 separate shows?
Not necessarily. I think they're still. I think Jessica Jones season 2 is still slated. That might be the only one that I think was officially confirmed. So no, I think they're going to all still have their own storylines, much like the Avengers all kind of have their own separate movies. But this was kind of the build up, and then of course we have Punisher coming out later this year. So there could be more going further, but I think this was kind of the immediate build-up, and depending on how it goes from here, I think they'll continue to make them as long as they're successful. I think Daredevil, you'll see a season 3. I know critics kind of panned Iron Fist a little bit, I think incorrectly, but it got panned a little bit. And then Luke Cage, I don't think was as popular, so maybe those shows don't get a second season, but I think depending on the success of Defenders, they will or they won't continue on with the other shows.
I mean, even with those types of people, you're going to have I guess it seems sad to say Hulk, but you'll have that in your Black Widows where they're not going to have, they might not be focused on with their own shows or own movies, but they'll be important parts of the Defenders. And for what I've been told so far, it seems like Defenders is definitely going to be one of those, the Defenders itself is going to be greater than the sum of its parts. Which, if that's the case, then I think it'll actually probably be a pretty good show. Also considering the fact that I thought Jessica Jones was great, and I think it's season 2 is long, long overdue for that.
Yeah, I think the reason it's been kind of pushed off, so to speak, is because they're focusing on they had Luke Cage, they had Iron Fist, they have Defenders, they have Punisher. So there's just so many shows that are kind of taking precedence, and then eventually they'll work around to doing follow-ups for all of them. So we'll see on the Defenders. Like I said, we should be reviewing it at some point here, so if you want to know what our review is, it will be coming up probably sometime in September. I don't have the exact date in front of me. And then finally, one more thing Netflix brought. Their Netflix exclusive movie, not starring Adam Sandler, first of all, but instead starring Will Smith. This one kind of caught me by surprise. It comes out near Christmas this year, and it's sort of like a urban buddy cop fantasy movie because Will Smith plays, Will Smith as a cop, So picture Bad Boys, but instead of Martin Lawrence, he's got some like troll-looking guy, and it's like set in a world where humans and fairies and goblins and trolls and elves all kind of live together in modern day, L.A. or something like that. This one's interesting.
I believe the city's called Westlake, which I thought was kind of funny.
Oh, is it? Okay.
We have a city near us. For those of you that aren't local to where we are, where there's a Westlake right near where we are.
So what did you think of this trailer, Kyle? It's sort of fantasy meets a gritty cop movie, kind of.
I feel like this is a really strange, and I don't want to be political or anything like that, but it seems like there's it's almost like a racial tension type of movie.
There is some of that in there, I think, yeah. But instead of like black and white, it's humans
like black,
and
white, and
orcs
Latino.
And
it's more like yeah. And you know what? I don't know how I feel about it. When I watched the trailer, I thought some of it looked interesting. It's totally. I mean, it's real different. So that'll at least
it's unique. I like that for it. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like the whole movie kind of revolves around they find this girl, which every time I look at her, I think of The Fifth Element all the time.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And then she has a wand, which they basically said it's a nuclear device that grants wishes.
What's funny is they call it a magic wand, and I think that was sort of the corniest part for me. It's like, oh, it's a magic wand, and I'm like, really? Are you going to call it a magic wand in this kind of movie? So that to me was the funniest, like cheesiest part. But I do like the one part where his, Will Smith has this troll partner that he.
It's an orc. All right, you're racist.
Orc partner. My apology. Who you could tell at the beginning, of course, he doesn't like. So there's that aspect. But at the end, the orc's like, "Are we in some kind of prophecy?" And he's like, "No, we're in a Toyota Corolla." So I do like the way that it sort of mixes humor with reality with fantasy, with a hint of cheesiness. So I don't know what this movie's...
Even Will Smith even said like Bright is like take Training Day and like mix it in a bowl with Lord of the Rings, and that's what this is what it's going to feel like. This
will be interesting for me. I think I'm going to watch it. I mean, I got Netflix. I've watched all the crappy Adam Sandler movies on there. I'm going to watch this one.
I was going to say, give it the respect it deserves if you at least watched all the crappy Adam Sandler movies.
I won't say I'm not hyped for this movie, but I'm intrigued by it. So it comes out this December. I don't have anything else to add to it. Kyle, if you got any final thoughts on it.
Well, I feel like with Haddix not being here, I feel like we still need to overhype this because it's Will Smith, and we all know that Haddix loves himself some Will Smith. So with that said, I hope it's good. I feel like Will Smith has been, and to no fault of his own, I think he's always done well in everything he's been in. But I mean, if you look at probably the last 4 or 5 movies he's been in, they've either been mediocre to outright bombs. And so hopefully maybe this will be a nice little reset button for him.
Yeah, we'll see. And I'll add one more thing to that. It is director who did Suicide Squad. So maybe at some point Will Smith will look at the camera and say, "Man, is that wand bright?" Right? Say the movie title.
I get it, but I hope he doesn't do that.
Yeah, well, I don't either. But that's going to do it for our Netflix exclusives. And in our next major segment, we'll talk about all the network shows that had some trailers come out at Comic-Con 2017.
Welcome back, everybody. And as always, with Haddix not being here and we can't do the usual test your knowledge, we still got to keep one of the segments alive. And I don't know why we felt that it was appropriate with Haddix bailing on us that we keep on resurrecting his clearly third best segment of the show. But with that said, welcome everybody to the List Twist segment, brought to you falsely by Sierra Mist. Insist on the twist. So I will say that tonight, I know we talked about this before, Kiser. It was not the easiest thing. Usually, see, here's the thing too. Haddix is a lazy guy, and Haddix just feels like the best way to do a segment is to go online and find a list and then talk about it online. I mean, that's how much he cares about this.
Minimal
audience.
Effort for this guy.
Yeah,
minimal.
That's
effort.
what we should call this. We call it, just minimal effort. And
that's what this segment should be called. Minimal effort, brought to you by Sear Mist.
Sear Mist. So here's the thing. I'll be honest. That's what I was doing with this for a little while, but this one was a little bit difficult because there's so much with SDCC that it's hard to like pick one thing or create a list or find a list that goes with a theme with this without going into like one show in particular. I didn't want that. I didn't want this list to be like, oh, let's talk about, The Walking Dead or the new Star Trek show or no, we'll talk about Star Trek. I felt like that was just we were like pulling at straws at that point. So I think a good discussion list might be of the two conventions. One, obviously we've talked about E3. I can't tell you right up front what episode that was. I think it was a short, pseudo short 12. We did a review on E3. I can tell you. So we did a short on E3. We're doing a full podcast on Comic-Con, and I think it would be a good idea to talk between the two of us, and as well as I have a couple of discussion points list, if you will, of the two shows. What if you had the money, but you can only go to one of these shows? What would you choose, and what are the advantages, disadvantages? What do each of the shows have to offer, maybe that the other one does not? So, once again, to this full disclosure, Kiser has been to the New York Comic-Con. He has not been to the San Diego Comic-Con. I have not been to E3 or Comic-Con. I have watched a lot of the streams for E3 for the past 4 or 5 years. So we have not been to these events particularly. And also, what you would rather go to might have a lot to do with personal preference. Some people may be more into video games. Some people may be more into comic books. So, but I think what this discussion is going to be more of, all things being equal, what would you choose? And I would say this just real quick, Kiser, before we go into anything right now, gun to your head and money in your pocket, where would you go to first?
I think I'd go to the San Diego Comic-Con.
You think you could do the San Diego Comic-Con?
I do, yeah.
All right, and I can see why. And one of the reasons why I think a lot of people tend to enjoy Comic-Con, I feel like Comic-Con is much more for the fans. That's much more fan service.
Well,
than
and
E3 is.
E3 for a period of time, I don't even think they let the general public in.
2016 was the first time they ever even kind of did it, and
Yeah, okay, that's what I
2017
thought.
was the first year they actually did like day passes for guests.
Right,
It used to be like a press exclusive thing.
Yeah, and had you asked me this question 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, I think I'd answer E3 every year leading up to a period of time where, if we're just jumping right into it, I think for me, part of it, E3, we kind of discussed this in our short. A lot of these, press, the big players do a lot of this stuff on their own. Some company, like Blizzard, for instance, doesn't even, attend that kind of thing because they have their own convention. And, I think for E3, you don't get as much out of it these days as you would have 5 years ago or 10 years ago, before social media became bigger, before the internet became a much bigger source for promotion and marketing. And then on top of that, on the flip side for Comic-Con, with the increase in multimedia for comic book shows, both cable, network, all the movies, the big Marvel hits and stuff. I mean, you look at that 7 or 8 years ago, and you had Iron Man, before that Spider-Man. But outside of that, it wasn't like, you got DC and Marvel each releasing multiple movies a year. You have them, with tons and tons of television shows. There's a lot of content that you can go see with panels, and the cast is there, and trailers are there, and all that kind of stuff. 10 years ago, I think Comic-Con was a lot different too, where it's evolved into what it is now. So I think that's my answer would have been much different 10 years ago as opposed to today's standard.
And then once again, that was one of the things I was going to mention too, was that the evolution of both of these shows has taken on a kind of a life of its own in the past 10 years as well, where, if you looked at Comic-Con, back when we were, just getting out of college, maybe let's say 10, 12 years ago, it very much was, you went in, you might have heard there were a couple of booths, you would go there, maybe you would find like your favorite artist or illustrator, if you will,
Right. Possibly if a wrestling superstar might even show up, or like, Will Wheaton, who, might be there, or something to that effect.
Sure, and they might sign a couple of things. You might get your picture taken with them.
And there still is some of that there, too.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that the big thing now with Comic-Con is that is, like, the San Diego Comic-Con is the opportunity for a lot of these studios to make their announcements. There's not, like you said, because these other gaming companies and such have other avenues and media to kind of give out what they want to announce throughout the year. Really, I mean, the San Diego Comic-Con is really the Super Bowl of what these studios, when they have the chance to get all their fans in there, that's when they really want to show off those new trailers. And like you said before, the celebrity, the celebrity experience is so much more at Comic-Con than it is at E3.
Oh, absolutely.
E3 has celebrities, but it's a different kind of celebrities. If you
celebrities
if you love Twitch, if you're into Twitch, you're gonna see people.
That, or if you like the president of Nintendo or something like that, you might see that. But you're not. Nobody's going there hyped to, oh my gosh, I can't wait till my favorite game designer's there. It just doesn't have that. But my favorite actor from, Batman, or from my favorite voice actor from this game, or something like that. Like, there's a good chance those people are working panels and taking Q&A and stuff like that at Comic-Con.
Now, with that said, I do want to say that E3, I think, has the better shows overall. Like, I'll say, like, when they actually, like, when Sony and Nintendo and
presentations,
their actual presentations.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I mean, they go all out for those things. I think that a lot of the shock and awe sometimes, and I think it also takes turns. Sometimes it depends on what year it is. Sometimes E3 is better, sometimes Comic-Con's better. But from what I've been reading so far, E3 still usually comes out with a lot more of the breaking news, holy crap, did you see that type of announcements than probably what we usually see from Comic-Con is we knew these were in development. Now we're finally getting to see some.
To see it, right?
Yeah. So there's nothing really that's blowing our minds. Whereas like E3, we find out all of a sudden that like
GoldenEye's coming back, or
right.
They're releasing a new system, or possibly Nintendo dropped the bomb of Metroid this year, something to that effect.
Or like a Pokemon for the Switch. Like that's the kind of stuff that you heard nothing about until their panel. So, like, I think a lot of things are a lot more shrouded in mystery, and Comic-Con still does that too, but I think the E3 does that a little bit better. I think what it ultimately comes down to is the main reason why Comic-Con seems to be much more worth it to go see is how exclusive it honestly, even though you say E3 is more exclusive as far as the public being allowed to go, but really, I could stay at home and watch and stream every panel of E3. I don't miss any. It's almost like you're getting a front row seat of E3 by sitting at your computer.
That's true. Yeah.
Comic-Con, you're watching crappy iPhone footage of stuff until like Warner Brothers gets really mad and people
release the official trailers or something.
Yeah,
online.
Even though they didn't want to, they wanted that to be for the Comic-Con.
Yeah, I
attendees.
Saw plenty of season premieres and series premieres or an episode here or something like that, exclusive content that unless somebody leaks it online, which to your point is, crappy cell phone footage at a crooked angle with somebody's head in blocking half of it, you're not going to get to see some of that. You have the opportunity at Comic-Con to see things that not everyone's going to see for quite some time.
Absolutely. And then I think the last thing I had on here was obviously Comic-Con, you got cosplayers, and who doesn't love a good cosplayer?
Absolutely.
I mean, E3 you might get some of that stuff. BlizzCon has a lot of that stuff when they do their stuff. But as far as E3 in general, I mean, it's not even close compared to people dressing up like their favorite characters and
they're all over the board. It's from television, movies, comics, sometimes just references, everything. I mean, the cosplaying is through the roof.
I mean, really, that's a living that some people do. There are Twitch streamers that all they do is cosplay. They show how they do their makeup. They show off their costumes, and I mean there's a huge following for the cosplay streamer. And that's something that's been new. That was, I don't think that really existed 3-4 years ago, but now it's actually been a pretty prevalent audience base, is like watching people, like watching them make their own costumes and how they get ready for certain events and things like that. It's really, really fascinating. But at the same time, PMPers, let us know. Have you been to E3? Have you been to the San Diego Comic-Con? And if you've been to both, what has been your experiences overall? I know Kiser already mentioned that he went to the New York one. It's a lot of standing to see, a little bit of exclusive content. He says it's worth it, and I'm sure a lot of people agree. But let us know, once again, gun to your head and money in your pocket. Where do you go? Do you go to San Diego or do you head? I can't remember where the hell that other place where E3 is always hosted.
E3 was in San Diego as well.
You could be right. It might be. I think they're both in California at the very least. But
I thought they were both in the San Diego Convention Center there.
It might. You might be right, because it is one of the biggest convention centers in the country. I think during our break, maybe I'll double check that. But you might be right. But once again, like, let us know, like, all things equal, because obviously we're kind of the middle ground. We like our games, we love our comic books, we love our movies, but we love we love seeing the new technological advances and stuff. Where would you like to spend your money? Where do you think you would have the most fun? Let us know at Pseudo Nerd Pod. We would love to hear that. And as always, insist on the twist.
All right, now let's get back into some of the footage we saw at Comic-Con. And we're going to go into kind of the network television here, which is, for the most part, your ABC, your NBC, CW has a big portion of them, and then a little bit of AMC in there. And we'll start quickly with ABC's new show. This is going to be part of the Marvel, in that MCU, that Marvel Cinematic Universe, which the television series doesn't really touch, and that is Inhumans. Of course, is kind of playing off of some of what you saw in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know how connected those shows are going to be, if they're going to have some crossovers. I think I did read that they're going to have some crossovers. The big takeaway for me with Inhumans is what they're going to try to do for the first couple weeks is actually show in IMAX, kind of get some people, I think, interested. This show was originally supposed to be a movie, and at some point they changed it and created a television show instead. The trailer does not have me hyped. I'm going to be honest. I will check this show out. I will probably even go to the IMAX experience, but I'm just not feeling it. I don't know. It kind of looks a little corny and not in a campy, fun way. It just kind of looks bad. And that said, the villain in the show is Ramsay Bolton, the guy who played Ramsay Bolton, who you loved to absolutely despise in Game of Thrones, and he's a very good actor. So I'm kind of curious to see where it goes from here. But I don't know, Kyle. I'm hesitant on this one.
I mean, it doesn't help that. I mean, look, Inhumans in the Marvel world, unless you're like a really, really, once again, lightning in a bottle with Guardians of the Galaxy, and maybe that's what they're just trying to do. They're trying to eat up. You're trying to just make as much money they can with as much property that they have. But I mean, we're familiar with Inhumans. We read and reviewed Civil War 2, which Inhumans played a decent role in, obviously, But yeah, there's not really, as far as the actual characters, like there's no Hulk, there's no Iron Man, there's no Captain America, there's no like heavy hitter that really makes you be like, well, hey, at least there's this person that I can at least relate to from a child perspective of, oh, I know who that person is. I mean, those people on there, I think I forgot what the heck their names are. Was it Karnak, Medusa, and a couple other ones that I know that are in a Crystal, I think is one of them as well. It's not going to tug at me because it doesn't really relate to anything that I grew up knowing, and unless they blow it out of the park, and I will give it the chance it deserves, especially because of Guardians of the Galaxy. That you took basically a rather unknown property and turned it into a mega sensation. This is going to be a television show on ABC, though. This is a much different medium. So take it for what it is. If it's as good as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., then I mean maybe it's at least worth a watch.
And the problem with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is it took damn near 20 episodes or so to really start to find its own. This is getting an IMAX release followed by 8-episode run. That's not a lot of time. They really... I'm not feeling great about this one. They really need to hit a home run with this IMAX release, and maybe that crossover needs to happen quick and get the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Kind of feed off of that success. So, you know, as a fan of the Marvel universe, watched a lot of them. I'm hoping that it's another good show, but I'm fearful that it could become another Agent Carter that, you know, is a one and done sort of thing.
And really, did you watch for Agent Carter at all?
No, I did not.
Like I said, by the time I even got like halfway interested to wanting to like give it a chance, like it was canceled.
Yeah, that's the problem. So we'll see. We're going to move on now to the CW shows. This is sort of the Arrowverse, as they like to call it. Arrow kicked it off with the universe. And Kyle, before I get into them, I might do my own quick rundowns. Do you watch these shows? Do you have comments on these, or do you want me to just kind of give my opinions on each of them?
You might want to just go ahead. I'm not really into the CW scene. I mean, once again, Smallville wasn't exactly a CW thing, but I guess it was. I guess that's the property.
It was, but yeah, this is long gone.
CW is the WB, right? I mean, WB is CW, isn't it?
Yeah, in some aspect or whatever.
Okay, well, to short answer is I've seen a season and a half of Arrow, and that's it. So
okay, well, we'll start with Arrow. Of course, it started the whole CW universe. Last season, it really came back strong after a really horrifically terrible season the year prior, and it ended strong with spoiler alerts. They blow up the island with all of his friends on there, and now it's you wonder, did all the characters just die? Well, you're still kind of wondering that after the trailer. It shows a couple main characters. Mostly you see Oliver Queen and his son, who's a little bit older now. They're kind of living together, and his son, they had some cheesy moments where it looks like his son doesn't necessarily know what to think of his dad. And meanwhile, they're not showing all the main players. They're leading you to believe that these guys may or may not have survived on the island. Obviously, they're all coming back, or the majority of them, or all of them in some fashion. And
probably some like shocker reveal at some point throughout the season.
Yeah, and I think it'll be sooner than later. It might even be the first episode or two. Slade Wilson, though, he's making his return after being seen last season. So always looking forward to the Slade Wilson, Oliver Queen sort of banter. He was one of the favorite villains from previous seasons. So that's all I got about that. After the strong ending, really strong season of Arrow last year, I'm looking forward to this one. Moving on to the next one, Flash. Of course, if you remember, Flash leaves into the Time Force, joins the Speed Force, and kind of leaves their world or whatever. And now some samurai villain came back and said, "Hey, I want bring me Barry Allen." And so Cisco devises a device to hopefully capture the Flash out of the Speed Force, and they show somebody in a suit from 2024 running, and they say, "Oh, there he is," or "It's him," and they're going to catch him. So obviously, is Barry back? My guess is that's not the Barry they're going to want. In fact, I think it might even be Eobard Thawne from the future. So interested to see what happens there. The other quick notes on that, Caitlin Snow, who of course walked off and said she's going to figure out her own thing as Killer Frost. She's back as Caitlin Snow all of a sudden, so didn't seem like that lasted very long. And unfortunately, if you were a fan of Tom Felton, of course Draco Malfoy, if you will, no sign of him. So he had a fun role last year in last season. I don't know if he's back or not. And I guess all I could say is wait and see. Flash was a little bit of a disappointment last year, hoping to kind of turn things around again with it this year. We shall see. And quickly on Legends of Tomorrow, all I got to say is where the show ended last year, they pretty much screwed time all over the place. There's dinosaurs roaming the Earth on current eras. They got all kinds of anomalies now to fix. The cast is back. It looks like it's the same kind of fun, lighthearted sort of banter and relationships with everyone. If you liked last season, you'll probably like this season, but it's never going to blow your mind. And that's probably my quick little synopsis on the Arrowverse. If you noticed, I ignored Supergirl, and for obvious reasons.
And what was that obvious reason for those who aren't obvious about it?
It was a terrible show on CBS. It should never have been brought over to CW, and it should not be continuing to go on. And thankfully, their crossovers are meaningless as far as watching Supergirl, so I can continue to watch the rest of the shows and not miss a beat with her show.
Fair enough.
All right. Now, moving on, we've got one more DC show. This is, of course, Gotham, but this one's on Fox, not part of the Arrowverse. This show's always been an up and down for me. Watching the trailer, it was about 6 minutes long, and the first 5 minutes and probably 15 seconds was all recap clips from last season, which is just upsetting in its own right. The last 30 seconds shows Bruce starting to fight a little bit, and ultimately their big reveal that they're going to have a new villain this year, and that's Scarecrow. So Scarecrow looks like you expect Scarecrow to look. So
wait, how old is Bruce now in the show? Is he still a teenager?
He's a teenager, yeah. I think they...
Like 15-ish,
I don't even
know.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure how old the kid is. He looks like he could be 12, and he could also be 17, so... I don't think
how old does Jonathan Crane look?
They just show a guy wearing a mask. But pretty much a lot of these villains are late 20s into their early 30s or so. So Bruce is considerably younger than pretty much all the villains.
And I only ask this because I do kind of know a little bit about the ages of like the villains and Bruce Wayne. And Jonathan Crane is one of the guys closer to Bruce Wayne's age. As far as, I mean, once again, I don't know what's canon or not, or how close they care about that.
They've kind of shit all over the canon. I shouldn't say it's
I believe
it's
like in the Batman Begins, I believe it's like Jonathan Crane's 30 and Bruce is 27.
Yeah, well,
so like it's so
I don't
once
think
again,
it's gonna be that close in this one. The only people that seem to be close to Bruce's age are Catwoman. Poison Ivy was until she got transformed into a older woman's body. Long story there. And the Joker, if you believe the one kid was Joker, but hard to say there. So outside of that, nobody's near Bruce's age. And I think it was one of those shows, it was never supposed to be about Bruce Wayne and Batman, and they got pressure at some point we need to do something quick. Oh, we'll just start forcing the Batman storyline in here. So, we'll see. Last season was okay. This season's probably going to be okay. But I did think they did a good job with Scarecrow.
That's definitely a show that I need to get back into. I saw the first season and I haven't really gone forward since.
Yeah, fair enough. The next one... the ever-popular Walking Dead. For me, this show has about 4 good episodes every season, and the rest are fillers. I'm sure this season will be no different. They are still battling Negan. Now it looks like there's kind of different factions. Everybody's wearing armbands to kind of denote what territory they're with, what group they're fighting with.
The Bloods and the Crips version.
Yeah, kind of. And now they're preparing for all-out war. The big thing for me, they do show late in the trailer, again, kind of like the big reveal in other ones, they show a clip of Rick, of course the main character, lying in bed. His hair is long and gray. He's got a long gray beard, and it's a bright white light. And it's almost like, is he dead? Is he dreaming? And there's some thought that it could be a time jump. That it's possible that this season might be the last season during this period of time, and that at some point Rick, perhaps maybe a season finale kind of thing, he's going to wake up and realize, here we are, 20 years later or something like that, and his daughter will be all grown up, his son will be grown up and older. Like, it's very interesting to see where the show's going to go. I am curious to see if that's just a dream or if they're going to do a time jump. That said, it's Walking Dead. If you've stuck with it this long, you're going to keep on watching.
Now, that's the only thing I keep hearing everybody about. It's like, I have so many friends that like, oh my god, I hate Walking Dead, but I can't stop watching until it's over. It's kind of almost like you when you were like, you need to see the end of How I Met Your Mother after 8 seasons. And you're like, I need to just get through this 9th season because it's the last one.
Yep, exactly. So that's about all I got on that one. Star Trek Discovery, they showed a trailer for that. I'm not a Star Trek fan. I did not watch this trailer. I can't comment much more on that. I don't know if you got anything to add, Kyle.
You know what? And lucky for you, I am more of a Star Trekky guy. I did watch the trailer, and I do know a little more information about it.
This is lucky for the PMPers.
Oh yeah, this is right. It's not for you, Kiser. I don't know why I even worded it like that. It's not for you. It's for them. So Star Trek Discovery. Once again, this is like the first. Really, it's the first Star Trek season since I believe Enterprise, which I think was 2005. So we're talking like 12 years since the last Star Trek show. And I believe it's on CBS. Yes, I think it's CBS has this one. It takes place 10 years before the original Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, that time frame. So the one thing that makes this kind of interesting is that this is like there's like a Cold War going on between like the Vulcans, the Klingons, and so we kind of get to know that a little bit more. And for once, the main character is not like the captain of the ship. It's actually the number one of the ship.
That is interesting. I didn't realize that.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. The main person is played. It's spelled as Michael Burnham, but it's a woman, so I don't know if it's like Mikhail
or like
Burnham,
Michelle or something like that.
Or something like that. But it's played by Sonequa Martin Green. She played in The Good Wife. She's also Sasha Williams in The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, good old Sasha.
So she's going to be the main character of the show, which I think it's going to have a much more richer context now, being more of not the relationship with the captain and the subordinates instead of it actually being the captain. It also has Spock's father, Sarek. He's in the show, and I believe they mentioned Spock. Spock is alive. He's just a younger person in this show, but he's not. From what I see, he's not like in the cast of characters. But it's just obviously his mother and his father are in the show, so it's assumed obviously he's around somewhere, and maybe they'll introduce him, or maybe they won't. Who knows? I'm actually really, really excited about this show. I feel like the Star Trek, the actual TV shows have always done a good job. The movies have always been kind of either amazing or completely forgettable. I felt Enterprise was a decent show back in 2000, or in the 2000s when that show came out. So I am looking forward to watching this and seeing what they do with creating a prequel Star Trek show. So yeah, it'll be interesting
concept.
They don't go. They're not moving forward with it. They're going backwards. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with it.
Well, there you have it. And then one last thing, Kyle. This one's kind of near and dear to our nostalgia hearts, and that's Rocko's Modern Life.
Oh my God, I cannot wait for this.
Yeah, they're bringing it's going to be about an hour-long special, and it's basically Rocco returning to life, and here we are in the 21st century, and he's learning about all the modern technology. They're making comments about the iPhone and stuff in the trailer. This show was one of those shows that was really perverted as a kid, but you didn't know it, and it got away with a lot of liberties. You said you can't wait for it. I mean, is the hype real for this one, or do you think it's going to fall flat?
I mean, for me, it is. I mean, it's only a 1 hour special. I mean, what they had to lose. Once again, if this is just 1 hour of fan service,
that's what.
Well, if it's 1 hour of fan service, then I'm totally fine with it. I personally, outside of Doug, this was to me the best Nicktoon growing up. Once again, like you said, it was not as it was. Think of like Ren and Stimpy, but not as like perverted. I think like Ren and Stimpy was
not as vulgar. I think it was perverted, but it was more subtly perverted.
Yeah, like I mean, like Ren and Stimpy was a lot like I don't know. There was a lot more, I guess, more grossness to it, and for shock value purposes, like, oh my god, this is a children's cartoon. Like up there with in a different sense, like Beavis and Butthead, where it was like a bunch of kids doing stuff like mutilating things and watching rock and roll rock and roll music videos and stuff. Rocko's Modern Life, to me, was probably the show that drew more attention for me. And I think it's only a 1 hour special. It's not like it's a full season of anything. I think they're doing something similar with Hey Arnold, which is my third favorite show. They're definitely picking the right shows to bring back.
Yeah, I'm excited about that Hey Arnold thing too.
So I will. With the moment that it's out, I'm going to go see it. That is definitely going to happen for just to feed the the 9-year-old in me.
I feel like the 9-year-old in you might need a lot to be fed. I don't know.
I was a much tinier person at 9 years old. I mean, that goes without saying, but I might have to pull out the old bagel bites.
So maybe you were Rocco as a 9-year-old, and now you're Heifer as a 32-year-old.
Actually, I probably was more of a Filbert when I was that young. It's a little little nerdy kid that was shy. Rocco. I don't know. Rocco was the least interesting person of the show, and he was really cool. So that's why also another reason why that show was awesome was that the cast of characters, all of them had their own personalities, and they were all awesome, including Rocco. But if Rocco was probably the most like vanilla ice cream of all of them, so I once again can't wait.
There you have it. And coming up in our final segment, we will discuss all of the big movie trailers that were shown at Comic-Con. All right, it is time yet again for a group great debate. Thanks, Haddix. If you remember, all of our great debates we like to put out on Twitter. We get the PMPers involved and have a Twitter poll vote. So, as always, follow us on Twitter at PseudoNerdPod to participate in the voting. If you forgot or you didn't do it last week, the poll usually drops about the same time the podcast does. And last show's great debate, we discussed who you wanted to see in the next Spider-Man movie. And we had 20% of you said Mary Jane, 50% said Harry Osborn, 10% said somebody else who's a current MCU character, and 20% said other and commented Scorpion. So Kyle, it looks like the people have spoken. They want to see Harry Osborn. They want to see the the Goblin of some sort to show up in the future. So I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm fine. I mean, I'm fine with it, but at the same time, I mean, it's been done. Really, people don't really understand how deep Spider-Man really is, and that's why I always feel weird. Like bring back Doc Ock, bring back the Green Goblin, and yes, they are like much bigger focuses of the Spider-Man universe, but there's a lot, especially with the young Spider-Man. I would like for him to go after, like the Armadillos of the world and the Scorpions of the world and those types of guys. They're definitely going to be much more warm up, tune up the band type of villains that I think he's going to need to get through before he starts taking on, guys like Sandman, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin and things like that. So I get it, but not for the next Spider-Man movie. Maybe he makes an appearance, but not a major player.
All right, well, the PMPers said otherwise. And as always, you guys speak out to us, follow us on Twitter. And this week's poll is, what are you most looking forward to that was shown at Comic-Con? What trailer hyped you the most? And we've got 4 listed here. We have the Stranger Things Season 2 trailer. We've got the Justice League trailer, the leaked Infinity Wars trailer, the new Avengers movie, and other, which of course if you comment on other, or if you vote on other, leave us a comment. Let us know what you vote for on other. Somebody voted for the other MCU character and never commented, so I have no idea who that is. It doesn't help when you guys do that. So when you vote, please, 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 if you vote for other, let us know. And so Kyle, out of those 3 that I listed, Stranger Things 2, Justice League, Infinity Wars, or something else? What hyped you the most? What are you looking most forward to that was seen at Comic-Con?
There's a difference between being excited about or looking forward to that, and then something that like I have to see. Like I have to see it because one of the very few books I read was Ready Player One, and I know we're going to talk about that later. And I know that's not one of the four. I mean, other is other. As far as the first three, I mean, by far, Infinity Wars. I'm getting sick and tired of not seeing Thanos, and he needs to show up really, really, really soon. And once again, not saying it needs to be done. It's that carrot has been dangling in front of me for years, and I don't even like carrots. So, and I'm looking forward to this carrot, and I really want it to happen soon. But
you can turn that carrot into like a nice carrot cake. So that's an option for you.
I could, and I do enjoy myself some carrot cake. You know what? You're onto something. But I'm actually going to go third time in a row. I believe I'm going to go with other, and I'm going to say what Ready Player One. And the reason why I have to go with it is because for those who don't know me, I don't read books. I don't care for books. They make me sleepy. But I read Ready Player One, and I loved it. I cannot wait. This is my Twilight, as far as I'm concerned. Like, if I can, once again,
this is your 50 Shades of Hougie right here.
Exactly. So I have to see it because I just want to know what they do with it. Like, I hope that the adaptation's good enough because I thought the book was awesome, and I have to see it. This is of these Stranger Things 2, Justice League, Infinity Wars. Obviously, I'm going to see these, but if all four of these came out tomorrow, Ready Player One's the first thing I go see.
Interesting. I think if all of them came out tomorrow, I'd have to choose Infinity Wars, but that would actually not be my answer here. Mine is Stranger Things 2, and the reason for me is less to your point. Pretty much everything we're going to discuss, for the most part, I want to see. I'm looking forward to. Varying degrees of what I'm looking forward to. But I think Stranger Things 2, that trailer to me got me way more excited than I thought I was going to be for the second season of Stranger Things. And for that reason, that's my pick. It's nothing. It's just kind of that simple. I mean, yes, I want to see Justice League. Obviously, Infinity War has been building for frickin' ever, and I'm with you. I'm most to the point. I'm borderline of super hyped and also like over it at the same time, just ready to see Thanos. So, both of those will be probably first day or so views for me. But that Stranger Things season 2, loved the trailer. They hyped me up with the thriller and the Vincent Price. The kids are dressed up like Ghostbusters. It's taking place during Halloween. It's coming out around Halloween. Can't get much better than that. So for me, Stranger Things 2 is my pick of what I'm looking most forward to, just because I think it surprised me.
And once again, I'm not looking forward to Stranger Things or these other ones. I mean, once again, Stranger Things was fun. It was a fun show. It's one of the better shows I've seen on there. I would say, like, if I compared like Stranger Things to something like House of Cards or Orange is the New Black, and maybe it's just because there's more of an adult theme to it. It's something that, like, I think more as an adult, it's more adult oriented than Stranger Things. So maybe it just resonates. But then again, I'm a child. In my heart, I'm a child. But Stranger Things is a really good. Honestly, it's a good show to watch with the family because it's not too much on either side of the spectrum of either being cheesy, corny, or gory and scary. Yeah. So I mean, like, I feel like that could be a really good show. But to me, like, I like the adult content. I like the.
Hey now,
you're an all-star. Sorry, had to do that.
Yeah.
I give it to you. Strangers. I almost said Strangers with Candy. They should bring that back. But Stranger Things 2, it'll be exciting. But Ready Player One, it's got such a cult following, and I think people are really either looking forward to just really getting immersed into the movie or probably shitting all over it. And that's the kind of movie that I'm looking forward to either doing one or the other.
Well, there you have it. How about you, PM Peers? Reach out to us at PseudoNerdPod on Twitter. Vote. What trailer, what show, what movie are you most looking forward to after the Comic-Con trailers? Is it going to be the new Avengers Infinity War? Is it going to be Stranger Things Season 2? Is it going to be the Justice League movie from DC? Or is it something else like Ready Player One or anything else that we're discussing? Let us know on Twitter. Give us that vote, and we'll, of course, give those results during our next 90-minute show.
Hashtag reach out on our poll.
All right, and for that final segment, Kyle kind of teased a little bit of it when he mentioned Ready Player One. We're going to discuss all the big movie trailers. This might be the biggest and most anticipated portion of Comic-Con. It's also why we saved it to the end for our show. Let's just get into it, Kyle. We've got a bunch of big movie trailers to discuss, and we're going to start right with the one that you discussed that you are most hyped for from Comic-Con, and that's Ready Player One. For people who may not know, this was a novel, and it blew up. It was kind of maybe a surprise hit as far as it goes, and the novel's kind of a nostalgia overload. And what'd you think from the trailer, Kyle? This is Steven Spielberg directing it, so what are your initial thoughts?
I'm surprised he didn't throw a dinosaur somewhere. But with that said, I know it was not so much the trailer as much as just the announcement that there was, knowing that there was a movie. The trailer was fine. The trailer looked, CGI and spiffy looking, and like everything else was good. But there's still, once again, it looks like a barren wasteland looking almost post-apocalyptic. But I mean, for people who haven't read the book, and I'm not going to do any kind of spoilers, but it takes place about 27 years from now. I think it's actually 2045 or 2044. And this is like the world after we never really figured out how to stop global warming. We used up all of our fossil fuel resources. So it's like an energy crisis, and it's just, the economy is going down the toilet. So like as an escape in a sense, they use Oasis. And Oasis is this virtual reality
British
simulator.
Alternative band? Oh, okay.
Hey man, it's the greatest thing since the Beatles. And you put on the visors. It looks like it's a virtual reality simulator. It looks like what you would expect from what a virtual reality headset would look like. And it's kind of like an MMO virtual society. They have its own currency. They joke about how it's like it's even more stable than in the actual real world.
It is like real life now for a lot of people.
Right. They get out of it to kind of deal with things like eating and living, but other than that, that's where most of their time takes place. And then the guy who created the game, created Oasis, when he died, he left his will to the public, saying that he left an Easter egg, not a literal one, people, like an Easter egg in the game, that if they found it, that person would inherit his entire fortune and the corporation that owns Oasis. So that's kind of where the story, takes place. And I believe the main guy, I've read the book and I'm starting to forget people's names, Wade Watts. It's 5 years after the guy dies. So the Easter egg has not been found yet. It's 5 years later. It still has not been located. And now this guy is on kind of like the adventure to see if he can find this Easter egg.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me, the creator of this Oasis and the guy who's giving away his life's fortune, he was a big 80s guru. Like, it just loved the 80s, all the pop culture, everything. So there's a ton of pop culture references and 80s references and stuff hidden amongst this world that he created, and it kind of shows. You see a lot of it just in the trailer. You saw Freddy Krueger at one point. You see a DeLorean. You see the Tron bike. I think this movie in general is going to be chocked full of references, and Spielberg directs it, but and he has
I think you said Spiegelberg.
I did, yeah.
Hey, go to that farm and go pick yourself some apples and blueberries.
Spielberg, there we go. Directs it, and he said he's going to try to avoid too many of his own references from his own movies, which would be useful in there because I think he doesn't want to do too much self-promotion. But what was interesting to me, Kyle, in this trailer is you don't see anything that you described as far as the hunt for this egg. The other than the very end when they show the one of the crystal keys or something like that unlocking the door.
There's three of them all together.
Right. You don't see any of that in the trailer. You don't have any idea really what's going on in this. And actually, they show a big race with all the different cars. That's where you see the DeLorean stuff. I don't think that was even in the book, so I think they're going to take some liberties with this, which I'm okay with. It depends on how it's done. But
you also see Freddy Krueger in the trailer as well.
I said that, dude. I said Freddy Krueger.
Sorry, my bad, dude. My bad too. Sorry.
No, but I think this is going to be one of those things you could watch the movie 7 times and not catch all the little references and Easter eggs and stuff like that. So I too read the book, and if it's definitely a quick. I think it's a quick read, but it's a fun read, and especially if you're a child of the 80s or 90s. I think you really appreciate it. Recommend the book, and then I'm curious to see exactly how the movie goes, because so far they don't allude to much. But I will say the logo for Ready Player One is all one big maze, and at the end of the maze is an egg. So there you have it, a little tidbit for you.
Thanks for the tidbits.
You're welcome. Let's move on. The next one, Thor Ragnarok. Of course, we've already seen a couple of trailers. This is the newest one they released. This movie coming out November 3rd. It's a lot of what you've seen. You know, it's Thor, it's Hulk. It's kind of a buddy cop sort of feel to it. Interesting soundtrack, bright colors. But a couple of the things that I think are new. Hulk got a haircut. Did you notice that?
And I always thought that was strange, because I thought that almost every part of his being was kind of indestructible. So I didn't know that his hair could be cut.
Well, maybe Mark Ruffalo cuts his hair, so then the Hulk's hair just is cut in turn. I don't know. But I appreciate. I thought the haircut looks slick, and Thor got a haircut too. So maybe Hulk rips his hair out in some form of like camaraderie. Like, hey, Thor, you lost your hair. Let me pull my hair out, and we'll be buddies.
They are pretty much best buds.
Yeah. And also Hulk speaks to Thor as Hulk, which I think is the first time he's really said much of anything. Like, it just looks like Banner's finally has some kind of internal control over the Hulk being.
Well, you gotta remember in the Avengers movie, he does call Loki puny god.
Well, sure. Hulk. I mean, he yells a little bit, but here he's having like just a normal, like, chill conversation with Thor, which I thought was funny.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
And then the only other thing for me, Thor is kind of embracing the lightning god mentality, and you actually see his eyes go full Raiden.
That's what as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, we got to talk about Raiden for a couple seconds.
Yeah. So, anything you want to add to the Thor Ragnarok?
I really hope this is good, especially after Dark World, which, I mean, I was okay with it, but I think a lot of people felt that was definitely one of the flatter movies of the Marvel Universe, and I think it would be really interesting to see what they do with this one. And maybe it's just because it had to do with the fact that maybe Dark World didn't really have a lot of impact on anything. And so maybe Ragnarok will be something that is more foreboding for, what's to come. And obviously not every single Marvel movie needs to have that.
No, but I think this is the lead up for Avengers Infinity War. So I think this is going to be the one that I think you're going to have some teasers at the end that are going to be worth watching to set things up. And I think this is going to have to be the lead-in movie that we want it to be, but I don't know. I will say one other thing about this. The Pegasi. What do you call
what do you call a group of things that don't exist?
Yeah. Are they like deer? Is it all Pegasus? Like,
I think it's Pegasus and Pegasus. I think it's like deer.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the scene with all the Pegasus flying in, I thought was really, really cool looking. So there could be some great visuals in this movie.
And they've never been short on that. That's never been the problem. But once again, all the pretty lights and artwork and stuff like that is not going to save a flat movie. And the answer is the plural looks like, God, not even the internet knows.
Oh, there you have it. Speaking of movies that could fall...
Peagle. Or P-Guy. Peg-Guy.
Well, I don't even know what to say to that.
I think we're just going to call it Pegasus.
Yeah.
Just from now on. It's P-E-G-A-I. Peg-Guy.
PMPers, if you know the correct plural form of Pegasus, reach out to us.
And then we're just going to go with Pegasus anyways.
Right. But to your point, flat movies, we've got Justice League. Of course, this has been kind of what DC's quickly been building up to. I will say, this is the best, this is the most interested I've been in this movie, seeing this trailer. They do mention lanterns, which I thought was cool. Obviously, still no sign of Superman because he's dead and he won't be in this movie, right?
Right.
But they do show Alfred at the end speaking to someone. They kind of hint that you feel like maybe it is Superman he's talking to, where he says, "Oh, they've been eating you," but I don't think it's him. I don't think it's Superman there. I think that's what they want you to think. For me, I think it's Green Lantern. But Martian Manhunter could be a fun surprise if they brought him into this.
How does Alfred know him unless maybe Batman had files on him?
Right.
That's the only thing I'm thinking of. Is that
fair.
It makes sense that it would be Superman only because he knows who Superman is, and he does do the whole I hope, and he kind of stresses the word hope.
So you think it's Luke Skywalker?
I mean, Disney might have a word to say about that, but
I'm just saying.
I will say I will be happier if it's not Superman. To be honest, I think one whole movie without him would be fine. I don't mind that he's in it, but I would like to see another hero, whether it's Martian Manhunter or Green Lantern.
My vote's on Green Lantern, but I'll be interested to see. The only other thing I want to mention on this, if you have nothing else to add, for me, I think Cyborg looks like a complete idiot. I think his costume looks terrible. And that's about all I got to say about that.
It looks like it's not done.
No, it doesn't.
He just looks like a trim guy in half a costume. And here's another thing I wanted to ask, and maybe I should know this, and I'm assuming this is Darkseid, but is that who the bad guy is in this movie? Who's the guy that comes down?
It could be, or it could be leading up to him. But yeah, I think there's another guy in this, and I can't think of the guy's name right now. The guy who's got that weapon in his hand. He might be the main villain for this one.
Well, I assume he is, and that's why I'm I don't remember Darkseid having an axe-looking weapon. The only person I knew that had kind of weapons like that would be Ares, but he's dead, sort of. So
yeah,
I didn't know.
I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe it's just a super bulked out Ares, especially because it looked like he was summoned through on the Amazon's world as well. So that's why I think maybe it's Ares.
It'll be interesting. Justice League, though, coming out not long after Thor. So you got November 3rd for Thor, November 17th for Justice League. And then, of course, the big one, the Infinity War. This one, of course, leaked online, so you can't watch the official trailer. You can watch the tilted, dark room kind of cell phone footage. I gotta say I was excited. Even in crappy conditions that I watched it, it was exciting. I saw Thor, you saw Doctor Strange, you saw the Guardians, you saw, I think, Captain America with the beard. I think Ant-Man was seen. There's probably 100 others, but obviously Thanos was a big reveal. He's talking, he's walking, he's fighting. But for me, Kyle, something we talked about in the Spider-Man Homecoming episode, that Spider-Man didn't have his Spidey sense. I don't know if you caught it or not in this trailer. It might have been a little hard to see with the footage. Tom Holland's sitting on a bus, and his hair sticks up on his arm, and he turns and looks. I think we got ourselves a Spidey sense, my friend.
Thank God. Oh, and by the way, just so we don't lose too much or be behind too much, and I'm an idiot for not even remembering this, it's Steppenwolf. That's the bad guy.
Yeah, there we go. Yep, that's the name.
Yeah, I knew he's the uncle of Darkseid. So, I mean, it's from the same family, but not Darkseid.
Right.
All right. Go ahead. But yes, Spidey sense.
No, Spidey
awesome.
sense. I think that was my biggest takeaway from this trailer. We might have Spidey sense, so I'm excited about that. But overall, it looks like a pretty good diversity of characters and not a main focus on anyone. I'm sure Robert Downey Jr. will still be kind of the lead. But in general, I gotta say, I want to see a real trailer that I can sit down and kind of break down a little bit, notice a little bit more on. But it looks pretty good. I mean, our long wait might be worth it.
Well, and like I said, we're I don't think we're at the boiling point of being impatient, but I mean, come on, I want Thanos. I would love to see him very, very soon, and it looks like it's happening. What's it? 2018 May
2018.
Yeah, less than a year.
So there we go. Yes, less than a year. Hopefully they pull things off. Worth mentioning, they did show some Black Panther footage. I've not been able to find the leak for that one. I don't know if there was or not, but from what I've been reading online, the people that saw it are like incredibly hyped. They thought it was fantastic. So, looks like Marvel just keeps on rolling, keeps on going forward. And one other note about Marvel, the Captain Marvel movie that's coming out soon. It's going to be set in the 1990s, which I think is an interesting way of being able to release a Marvel movie and not have it, ruin. Like, why is this happening during the Infinity War? Waiting for Part 2 of Infinity War. So, I thought it was a clever way of handling that. So, bravo to Marvel on that one.
Hold on. Back that up. What? It's set in the 90s?
Yes. Yeah. Captain Marvel.
So this whole thing, the
90s.
whole thing that we've been. Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, not Infinity Wars. Captain Marvel.
Oh, okay. I'm sitting here like, whoa. Let's pack it up here. Okay, so. Captain Marvel, the origin of her takes place in the 90s.
Correct. And then she apparently will not be in Infinity War, at least Part 1. So maybe they'll explain in the movie where she went or what happened to her or something, but she will not be there. That's all I got about on the Marvel. And then they showed the Kingsman 2 trailer. I never saw the first. It's another one of those I can't really comment anything on, but I know people are excited that did see the first, and I heard the first was a good movie.
Well, lucky for you. I happened to see this movie without headphones on a plane looking at someone else's screen. And I will just tell you, from what I can tell...
That makes you an expert.
It does. It makes me more of an expert than you. No, actually, no. In all honesty, I actually did see this movie. The first time I saw the movie, though, it was in that format. Same thing with John Carter. That was the first time I saw John Carter, was without listening to it at all and watching it on someone else's screen on a plane. Kingsman was... actually a really fun movie. I felt like the story was fine. There was something crazy great about the plot, but I think the movie overall was a fun cinematic experience. And it seems like this one now, where all the Kingsmen were basically wiped out, and now they're enlisting into the American version of the Kingsmen, which apparently is Channing Tatum and a couple other guys, and they're all cowboys. So I don't know how I feel about that. That's like, in England, the special group is a bunch of suave, debonair 007 looking guys with umbrellas and suits and briefcases.
Right.
And then you have the American version is a bunch of dirty cowboys with 6-shooters. But it's gonna be kind of cool. It'll be kind of like, once again, it's cowboys. Everyone loves cowboys.
Except for Eagles fans.
I get it. Or Giants fans. Or all fans.
Redskins. Yeah, or pretty much everybody. But that's about all I've got. Any final thoughts, Kyle, on Comic-Con? Anything we didn't touch that you want to make mention to, or anything else?
No, not really. Once again, Comic-Con's always an intriguing one, just because you have to wait until all the rest of if you didn't go, you really have to wait for like a lot of the press releases from like Guardian and The Verge and Polygon, IGN, a lot of those guys who will mention like what happens, unless you're, basically just hanging out on YouTube and waiting for things to pop up. So it's always shrouded in a little bit of mystery, just because I feel like a lot of the studios want to give exclusive content to the people that paid for admission. And obviously in the world of, phones in our, cameras in our pockets and our phones, that's just never going to happen. And I think they just need to embrace that and make sure that when things I think in a perfect world, as soon as the the panel is over, then all of these companies release this stuff out onto like YouTube and stuff like that on their channels, because all they're going to do is give these people the opportunity to take hits away from them with crappier audio and crappier video versions of their trailers. And it just seems like if they can help it, they don't even want to put it out there. They want that to be just for them. But, in this world, they need to get with the times.
Well, there you have it. All I'm going to add is, if you haven't seen some of these trailers, anything sounds interesting to you, log on, go to YouTube, look at them, check them out, seriously. And, let us know. Go follow us on Facebook. At least Twitter. On Twitter. Yeah, at least Twitter. Like and subscribe on iTunes. And give us your thoughts. What did you like about Comic-Con? What didn't you? What are you hyped for? Maybe what did we not talk about that you're hyped for? And join us next week for our pseudo short. We're going to talk baseball. So hopefully Haddix would be back for that one because we need our baseball expert. And Haddix brings his A game when it comes to baseball. From the Great Lakes to the Great Lakes, because that's all we are these days.
Yes, absolutely.
I am Josh Kiser. He is just Kyle Hoagland, and we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday. See ya.